So this week, I've been thinking a lot about the different identity shifts that we're all going through as people with everything going on in the world. Everybody's just trying to find their way. And it really just dawned on me that, like, the reason why so many people may be struggling is because everything we've been told, for forever has been that you have to find your thing, you have to find your niche, and you have to commit to something. And I think that you know, abiding by those rules, like, that's what's keeping people feeling stuck and trapped and pretty much invisible. I did a poll on LinkedIn not too long ago, and I was asking people what their goals were for 2026, and most people said their one of their top goals was to, get some additional income, find other ways that they can make money. And then I did a follow-up. I'm like, "What do you think is holding you back?" And 90% of the people just about said, "I don't know what I could monetize." And I'm like, "Well, what are you interested in? Like, what do you mean you don't know what you can monetize? There are people monetizing literally everything." And I think that's working right now because we're moving away from this identity model. And, like, if you went the traditional route and follow, the path like I did, you went to college, you chose a major, went into your career, and maybe you've been there for a while, I mean, that's your identity. You are in a very specific lane, and it's hard to break out of it. It's almost like when I went and got my MBA and I said I wanted to go into marketing, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. And even, like, employers, right, like, they just didn't get it. They were like, "Why are you trying to make this pivot?" And it's like, it's not for anybody else to understand. It's like, I can be interested in more than one thing, and so I told myself that I can break out of this identity, this box that people have put me in, and the good thing is that we're moving away from the identity, model into, a interest model. Gary Vee keeps saying how it's no longer social media, it's interest media. Like, people are, tuning into whatever they're interested in, not necessarily who they're following or who they know. So that really opens up, sky's the limit. If you're interested in something, there's a market for it, there's an audience for it. And when I think about, the lanes that we have either chosen consciously or subconsciously. You go to college, they force you to pick something. You know how being undecided was like a bad thing, when you're in college. So they force you to pick something. And then once you pick something in college, you're pretty much destined into a career trajectory. Again, pick something and stick with it. And for me, like in my entrepreneurship journey, outside of real estate, so the real estate, I kind of look at that like completely different. Nobody knows who I am there, right? I can collect rent. I don't It's not a brand thing, so that doesn't really fit in that lane for me. But when I decided to build a brand, that's when I also kind of felt this whole box thing. Like, so it's like you have it in your professional career and then you also have it in your entrepreneurship journey. And so when I first started trying to build a brand, I went the career coaching route, and I did that because I've told this story a million times on this channel, but I went and got a software engineering certificate later in my, career, actually after I got my MBA. I wanted to go into software. So then I went and got this certificate, and then I'm in this program with all these people who have no technical experience. It was back in, was it 2019, 2018, 2019, where, like, you could go get a certificate and literally change your whole career. So there are all these people, physical therapists, servers at restaurants, like all these people with, seemingly unrelated non-technical backgrounds in this certificate program with me. And we got out of the program, none of them could find jobs. I mean, none of them could find jobs. And so that's when I came up with my thought process that degrees and certifications don't matter. What matters is if you are able to articulate your value and you understand what the person across from you wants. And I was able to do that. I don't know if it was because of my technical background that gave me a little more insight into what the people sitting across from me wanted, but I was able to get a job pretty quickly. So then people started calling me, the whole nine. And I'm like, okay, I need to turn this into a business. Clearly, I know something these people don't know. So I did that for a while. And then I got bored. I got bored coaching people in their careers. So I pivoted over to, and I'll talk more about getting bored in a minute, but I pivoted over to confidence for like 5 minutes because then I told myself, I was like, everybody's real problem is confidence. After coaching people and serving as a career coach for probably 18 months, everybody's real problem is confidence. So then I pivoted over to that for like 5 minutes. I never really committed to that, but that's when I changed the name of this channel, the name of it. Uh, I just let it sit though, because I just let it sit and marinate. I didn't do anything immediately. And then I decided to come back into building my personal brand in 2025. So like mid 2025, I was getting kind of antsy, work was just work. And I'm like, I want to do something else. And everybody's like, why are you not doing anything for your YouTube channel? You have a brand, you built a following on LinkedIn, you did all these things and you're just doing nothing with it. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me come back and share my real estate knowledge. That again lasted for like 5 minutes. And that was cut short because I've recognized that like I've been a real estate investor for 8 years now. And so back when I bought real estate, it was much more affordable. And so it's like, no matter what I tell you right now, if you can't afford the real estate prices, you can't afford the real estate prices. So it just wasn't really practical. Like people were interested, but it wasn't practical. And so now I'm like, what do I do with my channel? This channel is just a mashup, right? And to bring this home, I realized I went all around the mulberry bush. I am leaning into my interest, right? Like, what am I interested in? And so I'm really using these little yap sessions to kind of flesh out my ideas, figure out, what's important to me, figure out how I want to go about things. And I just think it's something sexy about building in public. I mean, I love watching people's, you know, I don't want to say vlog style, but more like just conversation, unscripted videos, like actually hearing what people think and how people think. And I'm like, why am I not doing anything with my own channel? So here I am leaning into my interest and using this channel, to kind of break myself out of the box, right? Like I started this channel, it's covered three different topics. And here I am again picking it up and I'm going to cover something else. And it's like, I have to do that with confidence. Most people would say, oh, I failed at something. Let me run and hide. Let me act like it didn't happen. And I'm like, that's just not real. You got to keep it moving. My general philosophy is you got to keep it pushing. It does not matter like life will always happen. It will always occur. It will land on you, but you have to keep it pushing. You have to control your controllables. And so I think there's this massive opportunity right now with YouTube that it's allowing people to move. Like, this is the vehicle of how you move from your career identity into your brand identity. All those people on LinkedIn who were saying they didn't know what they could monetize, I think it's because, they feel trapped in a box and they're really interested in knitting, but they have no outlet to talk about knitting, but here it is. YouTube is it. If you're knitting a blanket a day or whatever you're doing, there's somebody who's interested in that and would love to watch you knit. And I actually crochet. I actually crochet, and I thought about it'd be funny that for one of these yap sessions I'd sit here and crochet. It's almost like watching people paint or like, all these other random hobbies that people have, and you're just watching them do it. For some reason, I was like, I might bring my finish my blanket on screen. But anyway, uh, and that kind of makes me think about the fact that, people don't really follow topics anymore. You know, people are following their ideas, they're following curiosity, and they're following, people that they trust, people that are interesting to them, who the way they think is interesting to them. And I was actually today, I was just, I took a little break today, midday, and I went and picked up my Sephora and my Kiehl's order. And on the way, I'm like watching YouTube. I'm always listening to something. And I was actually looking at some camera videos have been popping up on my feed. And Vanessa Lau popped up. And I hadn't seen Vanessa Lau on my feed in I don't know how long. If you don't know who she is, she's a huge YouTuber. She's covered various topics. And she used to be she used to cover YouTube growth, Instagram growth, and now she's doing bubble tea. I was like, well, look at that. Because she also left social media for a while, quit the business, quit everything, and now she's back selling bubble tea. And I listened to her video while I was driving, and she really just touched on a lot of the things that I have already been thinking about. What she said that was really interesting was that she has 300,000 followers on Instagram, and now she's getting 100 or 200 likes because she has pivoted from what people originally came to her for, and now she's in the act of rebuilding her entire audience. And it really made me think about, why I've been having such a hard time on LinkedIn. I mean, I came back to LinkedIn in September after probably a year off. And I'm just like, what is going on with this platform? And I've done a lot of complaining. I've done a lot of complaining about it. But the reality is that it's what Vanessa said. It's like I built an audience of people who came to me for career advice. And now I'm talking about not building your brand, but building other sources of income because your corporate income is fragile. That is what's going on right now. I think everybody should have something else on this side. I'm talking about my real estate. I'm talking about my, all the AI interest and all the things I'm having AI do for me. And so for a while, I thought it was just the algorithm. I'm like, the algorithm just is not feeling me these days. But the real is that the audience that I built, they may or may not care about that stuff. And how this ties back into, what Gary Vee was saying about social media versus interest media. LinkedIn doesn't care that I have almost 20,000 followers. They can't push my AI content or not push. They can't force my AI content on people who are desperately looking for a job. And so it's not that the algorithm is being malicious. It's just that they have to find a lane, right? They have to find people who want that kind of content, and it may not be any of my followers. And so maybe there was only 1,000 people they could find who want to hear about that. I know that's not true, but maybe that's what happened that day. And so it's a little humbling, and it's almost like if you don't want to be in a box, if you don't want to be trapped, if you want to have the ability to pivot into where your interests are taking you, you have to be okay with your audience leaving you from time to time, right? You have to be okay with people unsubscribing or unfollowing because, just because your interests have changed and your season has changed, they may or may not have come with you. And so the people who are not in my season right now, they're still like corporate is the thing. That's all I'm focused on. They probably are not interested in what I'm talking about anymore. But that's just not where I'm at anymore. I'm not. I can't pretend like corporate is the end all be all. It's just not. I mean, the fact that I've been laid off multiple times. I know tons of people who've been laid off. Um, as of this recording, in January 2026, I think over 100,000 people have been laid off. And it is, we're in February. We're a month into 2 months into the year. And so I just think it's irresponsible to pretend like corporate has the stability that it used to have. So I'm not interested in talking about that. And if certain people, you know, are not in alignment, then I wish them well. But I think what having your own platform allows you to do is to build your, like, there's this book called 1000 True Fans. Is to build your true fans, people that are going to follow you wherever you go, right? Whatever you talk about. And I mean, even Vanessa Lau, I hadn't seen her in over a year and a half, probably. And the moment I saw her video, clearly I clicked on it because I'm like, what is she up to now? And so I think that's more so the lane I'm interested in. I'm not interested in, you know, hunkering down and, picking something that I'm afraid to pivot away from. And I think that can probably be a little daunting for people because they're like, well, why even start? Why should I start something if I know my interests are going to change? But it's like your interests are going to change. Look at every successful entrepreneur. At some point, you get bored with the content. You get bored with talking about the same thing over and over again. You get bored with coaching people who have the exact same problem. And it's like, you're not being all over the place. You're being human. You know, we have to just accept that that is what it is. And honestly, I think if you do something for 3 years, you're a success. By year three, you know everything there is a lot of what there is to know about it, the good, bad, and the ugly. And what I realize is that sometimes when you feel like you're ready to move on, you're really just moving into a new version of what were already doing. you know, when I think about all the pivots I made, I'm like, these are really just the same ideas showing up under a different topic. My overall point of view is that action is better than waiting, leverage is better than loyalty, and building is always better than complaining. And when I think about everything that I've done, on my own in terms of building my brand, that point of view has carried through all of them. So it's like, am I really doing something different? Not really. It's always the same underlying message and tone. I just have, shifted my vision a little bit. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that people who are really rocking with you, like they're rocking with you because of your point of view. They don't really care what you're doing. It's kind of like your friends. I have my very first friend from first grade. We're still thick as thieves. And you know how you go through all these different seasons. It's like that person is still your friend. That it doesn't matter if you're up, down, you know, whatever you're going in life, they still your friend. They still care about you. And I think that, instead of putting yourself in a box and saying, "Oh, I'm a therapist," or "Oh, I'm a fitness coach," or "Oh, I'm an engineer," or "Oh, I'm an accountant." Instead of putting yourself into a title, a box of a title, we should all be building our brands based on our point of view so that the through line is your point of view. The topic that you choose to cover at the moment, that's what, keeps it interesting for you. I mean, you got to stay engaged with this thing. I just I just got so bored trying to help people find jobs. I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, I don't know how many times to say the same thing over and over and over again. And you're helping people and they need to hear it. But you still, as a human, have to focus on something that kind of gets you excited and wakes you up in the morning. So I think, in terms of like interest media and breaking out of the box, like if you're sitting at home and you're like, I don't know where to start, I don't know how to figure out my lane in this season, right? I do think you should pick a lane that fits whatever season you're in. You don't want to be kind of all over the place. You need to identify your through lane through what you're working on and what you're doing. But I meet so many people who just don't have a point of view about anything. And I'm like, you have to have a point of view. What do you think? And I think because we've been put in a box for so long, it hasn't been about what we thought. It's been about what's been right. What's been the right answer, what's been the right path, what's been approved, what is popular, what's going to pay well. That we've lost the ability to come up with a perspective, come up with a point of view. If you don't know how to do that, turn on a camera, turn on your iPhone and do what I'm doing. Just start talking. Your point of view will become very clear. The other thing is I have so much content that I create. I can literally ask Claude or Perplexity, like, what is my point of view? If I don't even know how to put it into words, AI has blatantly told me what my point of view is about things because it's not something you say. It filters through everything that you do, and the way you think. It kind of filters through. So if you don't know your point of view, can't figure out your perspective on anything, um, you can do some recording like I am. Or if you're more introverted, I'm an introvert as well, you can just start talking to AI about it. I don't know, pick a topic and ramble. Pick a topic of something that gets you excited, something that like, that topic where somebody says something and you're like, oh no, 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 like that's not what we're doing. That's not how that works. That's your perspective. And so I think, that's what you're missing. And that's why it's difficult to build a brand because you haven't decided what your point of view is. And I guess another way of saying what your point of view is it's really your beliefs expressed in public. A lot of us have, great thoughts. I'm sure you've been there where you had this great idea in the shower and then the next day you're like, what was it again? You didn't express it. Because once you express something, it sticks with you. So even if, another thing, I just thought about this, send yourself a voice note. If you have a great idea, if, there's something that you could talk about and you just keep ruminating over it, do a voice note. There's some perspective there. There's some point of view there, um, that the world might get value from. And when we talk about value, I think that's the big thing about getting yourself out of a box and feeling trapped is finding value in yourself outside of your job, outside of your title, outside of some form of approval, of from outside, some outside form of approval that has said, yeah, that's valuable. And I think, how we're all going to survive this new economy is, you know, building a brand and attracting opportunities. I think what is, you know, undervalued about expressing your point of view is how many opportunities you attract, how many people are attracted to you, how many people are thinking like you, but are afraid to say it or didn't think anybody else thought like that. I think about the fact that, I just came out of thin air and said I was a career coach. I didn't ask for permission from anybody. I didn't go get a certification. I didn't do anything. I just showed up. I knew what I thought and I knew how to do a thing. And I had proof that it had worked for me in my career. And from that, I just think about some of the opportunities that, it created that I would have never, I wouldn't have gone after that. I spoke, for a professional group at Cruise who does the autonomous vehicles. I spoke to a women's group, or girls group, I should say, at Georgia Tech. And those people just found me because I was running my mouth on LinkedIn. And it's like, how many other opportunities are there out there for me that I know nothing about? But until I start speaking my mind out loud and sharing what I think and sharing my perspective, they'll never find me. So here I am, guys. And I'm asking you to join me. Do some thinking out loud. Do some thinking out loud. I have, some friends that, I speak to at once a month. We're like business besties. And they have some of the best ideas, the best sayings, the best point of view. And I'm like, are you going to put that out somewhere? Like, that is good. So I'm begging everybody to just start thinking out loud, break out of your box and find, start putting some energy behind what's interesting to you. So if you like reading as much as you like watching, you can find me on Substack at Confidence is Cash. And if you want to follow my journey of using AI to do all of the things, you can follow my podcast at the Prompt Life Podcast here on YouTube. And that's all I got for you guys this week. See you next time.